you're either stagnant or you're not progressing. You know what I mean? When you are trying to find comfort in the growing zone, you're not even in the growing zone anymore. You're not even thinking about, what it really takes to reach your goals. When we all kind of decided that we wanted to push for nationals after we found out that we were finalists for the second round at state, oh man, you bet we were pushing for it. We didn't just, stop thinking or stop studying about what we were going to do for our next presentation leading up to qualifications for nationals. We pushed, and we pushed hard.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. All right, guys, welcome back to the Derick Legg Podcast. We are here today, not in the vault. This is our 87th episode, and we have another first. It's been a while since we've had a first, so, I guess we have two firsts. So first thing we have is we're actually at Crimson Cliffs High School. They were able to host us today to do a podcast here, and I've got a bunch of special guests. Our other first is we have a lot of people here, so it's going to be a cool podcast. We're going to try and move through it as fast as we can. If we're a little longer than an hour, I actually anticipate that. So stay with us if you're watching. But this is Crimson Cliffs DECA Club. You guys just introduce your first names and go around, and then I'll dive in with Ethan. So go ahead.
Sweet. I'm Ella, and I'm the club president.
I'm Ethan Altamirano.
I'm Liv Stuckey, and I am the Southern Region Vice President Officer.
I'm Ivana Moore.
And I'm Jason MacDonald. I'm the school's chapter vice president.
Awesome. So we're going to kind of bounce through everyone. Ethan's going to give us a little rundown of DECA, and then everyone's going to take a little bit of time and explain, what DECA is to them, and we're going to go through it, and then we're going to be going down rabbit holes like I tend to do. So go ahead, Ethan.
So yeah, DECA is a business club in high schools and colleges, mostly high schools. DECA is meant to prepare future business leaders and entrepreneurs how to expect a career in marketing, in finances, in hospitality, and in management. So within our respective chapters and clubs, we go over different kinds of things in the business world that we can talk about. For example, we can go over plenty of vocabulary terms that are used in the real world and how they apply. A lot of DECA is real world application because in schools, we learn tons and tons and tons about the books, the textbooks, right? But DECA is really meant to carry forward what we have learned from that and from our club and how we will be able to apply it in our life and for future careers, because that is really the purpose of DECA and, in fact, its mission statement.
See, I have kind of a bad condemnation to public schools, and I've been pretty vocal about that. Mm-hmm. And so one of my goals this year, because I'm more of a doer, not a talker, even though I talk a lot. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will complain about things. I try and find ways to get involved and fix it, right? So one of my goals this year is to speak in 12 different classrooms. So that's kind of how this whole thing came about. Is I reached out to Renee Martineau, who's your guys' vice president now. She was my favorite teacher in high school. So I reached out to her. I knew she was still in the schooling district some capacity, and said, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Do you have any connections?" And she said, "I'm actually the vice principal over here. I can get you connected pretty easy." So she lined me up with your teacher, Tiffany Moore, and that was the first class I spoke in last month. So yeah, last month I spoke in 2 different classes. And then she reached back out to us to do a podcast with you guys. And so I'm jacked. It's kind of funny the way everything kind of moves around, right? So yeah, I do appreciate that. I didn't even know what DECA was. So having a club like this, it kind of gives me a lot more hope for public school. Let's jump over to Liv.
Okay, so basically I'm just talking about what DECA can do for you, and that's one of my favorite things about DECA is because when I was a sophomore, I was interested in business, and I didn't really know what to do with that interest, and it was just a passion that I had. And like I said earlier, DECA is one of the amazing things about DECA is that you can take an interest and a passion that you have, and it's kind of a vessel. and it helps you learn more about business and learn more about management and education, kind of just cultivate your interest and turn it into life skills that you can use further on to further your career. Exactly.
I feel like that real implementation of what I would call real life, right? Outside of books and learning in classrooms. And that's what I thought was cool about this, is you guys are actually implementing those things that aren't typically, I would say, and I could be wrong, taught in public schools. So we're going to jump over to Ella next.
Okay, I'm just going to kind of talk about like my DECA journey and like why I joined. So just some background and so you can kind of understand my story. Basically, what you do at DECA is you have these competitions. We have region, state, and national. And at the competitions, you select your category, and there's like 4 different categories. You can do financial services, you can do hospitality, marketing, entrepreneurship. So you select what category you want to do, and then in that, there's also different subdivisions that you can choose from. So you take a 100-question test, and then that combines with your score from a business scenario. So basically, you're given like 10 minutes to read over a business scenario, and then you have to give a 10-minute interview based on that. Or if you're doing it with a partner, that's half an hour. So basically, that's how the competitions work. So really what got me into DECA was I've always wanted to be like this major fashion CEO of my own company. And like my motto is like, oh, I'm going to rule the world someday. I'm going to be like, have my names in headlines. So my older sister was like, oh, you should join DECA in high school. And so I get into my sophomore year and I'm at Crimson Cliffs. So I joined DECA, and it was a year during COVID. So everybody's wearing masks. It was all virtual. And really what I did, I just ended up sitting at the back of the class, like in the club. I just kept to myself. I barely even talked. I was like, basically, I just showed up. I listened to what was said at the meetings, and then I did my own thing. And I never really gave a second thought to DECA until we had our first virtual competition. And I kid you not, leading up to that, I seriously like cried for like an hour or two because I was so nervous to compete. So I think I did principles of hospitality. So I competed in that, and I ended up getting 6th in the state. And that was so surprising to me because I was like, I was just crying about this a day ago, and here I was winning. So then my junior year, I decided to be a little more involved. So basically my motto was just have fun with DECA. So I decided to do a partnership with my best friend, and we competed in travel and tourism, and we ended up getting 2nd in the state, and we just had fun. Our motto seriously was just had fun. We just laughed. We would just like laugh when we were planning, when we were taking the tests, and then we ended up qualifying for national. So we ended up going to Atlanta, Georgia last year, and that was really fun. But then this year, something kind of changed to me. My motto wasn't necessarily to have fun as much anymore. It was I wanted to see how far I could push myself on my own. So I decided to do an individual event, and I actually decided to compete in 2. And so leading up to DECA, like Isaac Prince, who won last year, and he's been on your podcast, he was really my role model because he just practiced so much. So I was like, okay, I kind of want to be like Isaac. I want to put effort in, and I want to see how far I could get. So I ended up getting 1st in both my categories this year. And then, so now I'm qualified to go to Orlando. And yeah, that's kind of my DECA journey.
Congrats. I've talked about this before on the podcast. I have this story about, I was maybe 11 years old and 10 or 11 years old. And they had like this day camp for scouts. Right? Do you guys even do scouts now? Is that even a thing anymore? So it was at the Sun Bowl here in St. George, and they had a bunch of little booths set up. Okay. And I'm sure I was playing with my friends or at the swimming pool or something. And my mom was making me go to this thing. And I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to go to this, And so I kept telling my mom, no, I'm not going. Well, I didn't realize I was like 10 and didn't have an opinion, right? Like she kind of controlled my life at the time. And so she told me I was going. We end up getting in the car, and I'm throwing a fit. I'm like, I'm sure I was being a jerk, right? And she ends up, we pull up, we sit in the parking lot, and she says, I'll make a deal with you, okay? If you end up going to this, I want you to have the best attitude about it that you can. And if you can promise me that you have the best attitude and you get done and you hated it, then I'll never make you do anything like this again. And I was like, done. Dude, like I I don't even want to do this. So no problem. I'm going to have an awful attitude, or I'm going to have the best attitude I can, and it's still going to suck, you know? So that was my mindset going into it. And about 10 minutes in, I was having the time of my life. Like, I still remember this whole thing. I remember going to the booths. I remember checking off the little merit badges. I remember doing all of that stuff. And when I got done, I completely forgot about the deal I made my mom. And so she comes and picks me up, and we're in the car driving back, and I'm telling her, Mom, I did this, I made this, I tied these knots, you know, I did all these things. And when we get home, she just stops and she's like, I just want you to remember this. She's all, 2 hours ago, you were so upset that I was making you do this. And then you went into it, and 10 minutes in of having the right attitude, you ended up learning and growing so much at this event. So she's like, I want you to understand that when you go do things in your life, having that attitude, like you were saying, you like walked yourself through it, right? So you went from kind of sitting in the back, not really getting into it, to doing it with a friend, which is super easy. It seems like a lot of things I've always done the same thing. I'll take a friend to it. Then for some reason, I'm not so nervous, right? And then going from a friend to like really applying yourself. Mm-hmm. And so that was a lesson I learned. And I told my mom this maybe 6 months ago. I was like, do you remember this day camp that I went to? Because I talked about it on the podcast. And she almost like started tearing up, and she was like, well, I'm glad something stuck with you, right? And so I don't know. It's just when you were talking through that, that's something I had always done was, man, like your attitude when you guys are going through life and going through these things are going to implement so much of what you're going to get out of it, right? And even doing this today, like I'm glad that all you guys were game to do this, right? So yeah, I don't know, little funny story that I had for you. But no, that's awesome. Isaac Prince is a stud. We talked about him a little bit at the beginning of this. We've had Justin, his dad, and Isaac on the podcast, and just tons and tons of respect for both of them. Ivana, let's see what you got.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey to get to DECA as well. This is my first year ever being in DECA, and I won second place at state. And DECA is a business club, but if I'm being honest, I never really was into the whole businessy thing until recently. And that's just because I always heard about DECA, but I never really thought it was for me because, so this August, I went through the CNA program at Dixie Tech. I got my CNA license. I was like on the track to go into nursing school, you know, and that's still my plan. I have a scholarship to SCU for that. But recently I applied for jobs at the hospital with my CNA license, and I was not able to get it because I am only 16 and you have to be 18 in order to work. So my plan kind of got set back a little bit. And so I'm also graduating early this year. I'm a junior.
Wow.
And so I'm graduating a year early. So I was trying to get a job and, you know,
sure,
move forward. But that was set back. So now I was sitting, I didn't join until recently. But I was kind of just contemplating, like, I need to do something to kind of, I don't know, get my mind off of...
Occupy time.
Yeah, occupy time. Because I have to wait 2 years until I can actually get a job. So, you know, at school, I was just kind of thinking of things I could do for school activities. And I saw the DECA Business Club, and I was like, that's interesting. I never really would think about going into business, but I decided to join just to kind of get out of my comfort zone because I'm not a very talkative person as it is. I'm pretty shy. So I figured that this would just kind of help me get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I did end up joining, and, you know, I did 2 projects at state as well, like Ella did. And my main one was financial consulting. I did a project on that, and I gotta say, it really did help me get out of my comfort zone. And now I'm actually pretty interested in business too. So it kind of, DECA for me and my journey has opened up a new window for what I can do in my future. So I'm not just so focused on one thing. I can have other things in the back of my mind. And now that I've joined and I've gotten second place for financial consulting, it's really helped me boost my confidence and know that I can do hard things that I didn't think I could do before.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing that you learned that at you say 16? You've learned that at 16. People don't learn that until they're my age or older. So like knowing that you can line something up that's uncomfortable and hard and tackling it, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that was me for the podcast. Like I told you before we started, right? Like it was terrifying for me to do this, and now it's just something I do every week. And so, but I think it's cool. So what are you going to do? Are you planning on SUU, or are you going to do business stuff? Where are you at?
For right now, I definitely want to stay in DECA, for this next year, definitely going to nationals and everything. But I think I'm definitely going to stick to going to SUU and nursing, but maybe have a minor in business just to have that in the back of my mind.
That's awesome. So my wife's actually a nurse practitioner. I don't know if you guys knew that, but she did the same thing. She was like, I'm gonna do CNA stuff. She did since she went to SUU. She did CNA for a little bit, and then CNA turned into the nursing program. And I don't know if it still is, but it was extremely competitive to get into the nursing program back then. I don't know if I guess it's common knowledge now after I say it, but I think she had applied twice and then got in the third time. And when she got in the third time, she got in as an alternate. So when she got in, it was like I don't think we were engaged yet. I think we were still dating when she actually got it accepted. But yeah, she went from CNA, I'm just going to get my nursing degree, RN. Then everyone has their RN. I need to do BSN. So then she does BSN, which is a bachelor's, right? And then she's like, well, it's only 2 more years to get my master's. And so then I'm like, if you're going to do it now. Like we didn't have kids. I was home. I was working 2-3 jobs. She was working when she could. I didn't put her through school because she also worked, right? Like I don't like putting it that way, but I was like, if you're going to do it now. And then 2 short years later, she's got her master's in nursing, right? And now I like to shout her out a lot because without her, I don't do a quarter of what I'm able to do, right? So she's the nurse practitioner there's 2 of them. So there's her and Chrissy, another one. But they're the nurse practitioners for the orthopedic trauma surgeon in town. So they're in surgery 2-3 times a week. They're stitching people closed. I mean, she's like hands-on, right? And to think that like when we met, she was like just trying to get into the nursing program, and she was doing home health. Like she was doing home health and hospice stuff to where she's at now. I mean, it's like, that's what it is though. You just got to take those steps getting through it. And I love the business side of it too. Like she's just starting, she just started an LLC and she's starting to do little business things on the side. But there's so much growth that you can do being in the medical field and having your own business. So I love it. I mean, if there's ever anything I can do to help, I'd love to step in and help. So
thank you.
Dason, what you got?
Yeah. All right. So DECA for me, I see it almost as kind of not a shortcut, but a way to like more quickly get to my goals in like a career, especially in business. Because I kind of noticed the same problem as Ivana. Like you can't get really into a career, especially as a teenager in high school. And I'm religious. I plan on like serving a 2-year mission for my church and then going to college. So like at my rate, I might not even get started in a career till I'm 24, 25. So like that's 10 years out. I need something to do now. And, I don't want to be stuck working a fast food job, getting $10 to $12 an hour. So DECA I saw as that like launch pad into business where I can get that business mindset, that business knowledge to help me start bringing like my own ideas to fruition. So I had a detailing business where I detail cars, and that's kind of what I did on the side last summer as just a side hustle. And then actually just a couple weeks ago, I started my first brand and trying to build that. I call it Reach Higher, but it's just like accessories and clothes and just like these things that I can do on the side just to kind of hustle like everything I can to kind of prepare me for not only my future in a career, but also maybe like during that career or even after my career when I start a business of my own and kind of am able to bring my own ideas to pass. And something I've noticed with DECA is you're with thousands, like literally thousands. Last year in Atlanta, there were like 20,000 other competitors there, and they're all kind of thinking the same mind as you. Not like the same, but they all have their own ideas and they all have their own things like driving them to be successful. And just being in that unique group of people is just like really price this, especially at our age, because you're getting that advanced knowledge really of business, as well as this drive that you're getting from other kids. And when you hear their ideas, like at our DECA fall conference, we were hearing kids who, like, one was like hustling shoes with his friends, or another was selling crepes or just on his street. And you're like hearing all these ideas just of these basically hustlers or kids just trying to build their own businesses up in high school because they're just like me, you know, they want to find another source of income or something that they can fit in around a busy schedule with school or with hobbies or other interests, where you can't work, like, you can't afford to work 6 hours a day to make $200 a week. So you have to find something that you can kind of do in addition to that to continually grow your own mindset and growth. And in DECA, I compete in quick serve restaurant management. Restaurant management is kind of just a thing of our family. My great grandpa ran a restaurant over in California called Shadowbrook, and my dad is a franchisee for Chick-fil-A. And it's one of my aspirations to one day own a restaurant on my own. Obviously, I can't do that as a 16-year-old, but DECA has also given me tons of other knowledge about business. Even though I am in the quick serve category, it's a part of the broader hospitality category. So I'm learning all these things about customer service, about hotel management, about finance, and how to manage your resources wisely. And just all these things that are so much more helpful, I believe, than learning, you know, the Pythagorean theorem in math in high school. So I just absolutely love everything about business. I love the freedom that I have to use a platform to, like, express my own creativity and also experiment in a way to find how I can also build my own success rather than have to read off, like, my success from a textbook, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, you and I are very similar. When I was your age, I was the same way. I was side hustling everything. I was mowing lawns. I was working at, like, the catering place down the street. And I mean, since I was your age, I've probably had multiple jobs. I don't think I just had one job, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that was like I started a Weapon X holsters where we do custom gun holsters, and I started that in my basement. And it was like when I got done with my 9 to 5, I'd go work till midnight building holsters, right? So yeah, I mean, that's cool. Like I said, I've always kind of been critical of the public school system. And then when I've met you guys and been around the classroom a little bit, I'm like, okay, dude, maybe there is, and I'm basing it off of 2007 when I graduated, right? Like, that was what I was basing it off of. But just as you said, learning all these different math terms, Pythagorean theorem, is that how you say it? Yeah. Like, there's just so many. There's so many things that I'm like again, do perfect example. So my wife's had to apply a lot of things that she's learned in the classroom for her career. I kind of haven't, you know? And so I didn't have a great example. So my dad had 2 degrees and he worked for UPS. And so I was like, what? And he's had student loans. I mean, he passed away a few years ago, but like, he has student loans until he died. And I'm like, so you're doing that to work at UPS and then have student loans? So I just have like a skewed vision of all of it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have scholarships, if you have that stuff, 100%. Like, if someone's going to pay for you to go, knock yourself out. Go learn what you need to learn. But be focused when you do it, right? I mean, there's so many people that have the scholarships and then they can't keep the requirements for their scholarship to work out, right? So if you're going to do it, be focused and do it. I'm all about that. If you're going to go pull $100K in student loans, like, maybe let's have a talk, you know, like, maybe we can go a different route. But like, my wife was driven and knew what she wanted to do. And, you have to go to college to have her degree, to have her job. I mean, so you have to do that. Let me ask you guys a couple questions on after high school. So what are your thoughts? We'll just start with Ethan since we haven't heard from you for a minute. So what have you learned in DECA that you think you can transfer into, I guess we'll call it the real world in quotations, right? Into work, into business, into whatever you want to do, whether that's 9 to 5, whether that's an entrepreneurship, whatever that is.
So DECA, since I've started DECA, I'd say it was 3 years ago that I started doing DECA. It really opened my eyes to what the business world was. You know what I mean? when someone says, I want to own my own business, I want to become my own boss, I want to make 6 figures by the time I'm 25. It's like, those are all great reasons to start a business, but is that the real reason you should start a business? You know what I mean? Should you go into a business straight for monetary value? And I learned that as I started to join DECA and as I started to take business classes more often. And so those thoughts translated more to, is that the dream or idea I want to have for my future? Do I want to have a future in which I'm only thinking about 6 figures at 25? Am I only thinking about, just that next monetary value? Do I just want to be my own boss? Is that all it's for? And so DECA has helped me understand more. No, the direction that you want to take is, what's your passion? What are you knowledgeable about, and what do you have conviction in? What is something that you're so knowledgeable about that you can turn it into a business and not only have 6 figures at 25 possibly, but something that you are proud of and something that you don't want to just sell out. What's something that you want to grow? So these are all kind of thoughts that I've had for myself as I approach graduating high school. So I'd say that it's translated in my life because I've wanted to start side hustles. I've been doing that since I started DECA. In fact, a friend of mine, we both started selling water bottles together, and that was a little side hustle that we did together. We wanted to experiment. All right, how can we turn, these presentations that we do for judges, for the club, how can we use those skills into the real world and sell water bottles like at a 4th of July party? So that's what we did. We went to a little party that was going on at City Hall, or around City Hall, near the library. But we went and sold water bottles, just walking around asking, hey, we've got Venmo, we've got cash, who wants to buy nice cold water bottles? We were carrying around a cooler, and it was literally just us applying what we had learned. And little things like that, I've totally looked into how I can transfer those skills into my future. And so I'd say that for my future, I've been able to plan more ahead of, all right, once I have a degree in college, my personal aspiration is to get my bachelor's in business management and then my MBA later. But I've thought more about now in high school, what are the passions that I have that I want to apply to those? You know what I mean? And so for me, a lot of that has been 3D printing. If you're familiar with 3D printing, it is a very brand new technology that's been out in the past, I'd say 2 decades, but it's becoming more widely popular for consumers. And you can literally print anything you want as long as it has a computer file onto a printer and make it out of plastic. And so I've seen that technology and I've realized I'm passionate about that. That's something that I want to grow and expand. And so over the past year or two, I've thought to myself, well, okay, I've looked at the industry. How could I, as of right now, how could I possibly make a business that would expand the market? Or what is a niche that has not yet been tapped into? What are customers looking at right now? And so everything that I've learned through DECA, understanding customer need, understanding the market, demographics that are in need of that, it's really helped me to diversify my future as far as my options, how I can turn my passions into a real business. And I've even been doing that now in high school. Me and the friend that I was talking about that I did water bottles with, I've seen him start his own business, a tailored detail in St. George, if you're familiar with it. But he details cars. I've seen him start his own business. And for myself, I started learning how to knock doors. You know what I mean? So I started doing a little side hustle where I can spray paint people's house address numbers on their curb for them. And so it's so crazy seeing how just what I've been inspired to do from DECA, how I've transformed, learning how to speak to a judge and present business slang in a very effective and efficient way, how I've turned that aspiration to, master those skills into how can I suddenly make a business that I'm proud of and one that I can build in the future. And that's something that I've definitely been able to take into account because of DECA. And I'd say that it's definitely a step that I would not have been able to take had I had that perspective.
Do you have a college in mind?
Yeah, Brigham Young University.
Awesome. Cool, man. And you're a senior?
Yeah.
So there's a junior and are the rest seniors?
I'm also a junior.
Junior, Liv's junior, Ivana.
I'm a junior too.
Oh, geez. Most of you guys are juniors. And then Ella's junior also. Oh, senior. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you're president.
Yeah.
So what does that entail? I mean, being the president of the club, you have a lot more responsibilities? Are you just lining things up? Is it logistics? What is it?
A lot of it is kind of consulting with Miss Moore, our teacher, and just figuring out, okay, how do we train these 25 new members and get them ready to compete in DECA. So really what it's looked like this year is, first off, getting people to join DECA, like advertising DECA, promoting it on social media, doing school announcements, participating in like club rushes. So first off, really what President was for me was just advertising it. We just needed new members and we wanted high numbers. And so then we ended up getting like 50 members joining at the beginning of the year. So that was just great. And then the next thing that I was like tasked with as president is, you have these kids and they don't even know what DECA is because the acronym doesn't actually have anything to do with the club. So it's training them, okay, this is how you compete and this is how you reach success with your competition. And at first this was actually a challenge for me because I didn't know how to continue learning myself and improving my skills while also teaching 25 other kids how to do the same. So really what that looked like was planning these club meetings, and I think we met like every week, and we would make slideshows about just one slideshow at a time, going over each aspect of DECA and kind of how to prepare for that. And so once we kind of went over that, we had like our first region competition, and that kind of rooted out like, okay, who's actually serious about DECA, and then who wants to go. And after that, it's really just been like lining up practice role plays, assigning out practice tests, and then we also do a bunch of fundraising, so it's coordinating fundraising activities and brainstorming what that is, gaining sponsors, and really just like reaching out to continually promote DECA and to figure out how can we achieve success together. Because really, if there's one thing I've learned as president, it's that a great leader isn't somebody who controls others. A great leader is, can you improve the lives of your constituents? And really, that has come by listening to a diverse range of opinions. Like, I'm president, but then Dason's vice president, and then we have other members of the presidency. And really, I don't just want to listen to my opinion the whole time. It's my opinion, yes, it works in some ways, but really, when I combine it with Dason's opinion, that's when we make magic. That's when we find the most success. So really, I think what president has meant to me is realizing that I love to help others, but I love doing it by listening to others and listening to a diverse range of opinions.
That's awesome. I had someone, a guy asked me on the podcast, like, what's a leader to you? What's a successful leader to you? And to be honest, I was like, I don't know, you win, you accomplish your goal. Like, I didn't know. And he was like, I think it's how many leaders did you produce by being the leader? And I think that's what you're doing. Like, you're letting Dason be involved. You're hearing opinions, you're hearing things, and you're trying to lift up the whole thing, right? And I mean, that sounds like a lot. Be involved in a lot. you know?
For me, it's just like, yes, it's fun to make nationals, but would I really want to do it all alone? Like, of course I want these 5 other people coming with me. That's really like motivation. Like, you just want to achieve success, but you don't want to do it alone.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Liv, what was the biggest thing you had to overcome to be? Was there anything hard for you? Is it presenting? Is it talking in front of people? What was it?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a talkative person. I can talk for hours. And I'm in a few leadership positions at my school. So I'm in student council. I'm the head editor here. And so I'm not really a nervous person. And so I've always been super confident in doing DECA. But one of the things that was actually something that I had to overcome was actually having to work for it, because my whole sophomore year, I placed first at region, and then I went to state, and I made it to second round, but I wasn't top 10 finalist, and I was kind of surprised because usually like school and learning come easy to me, and so I don't want to say like not being good at something was a surprise, but like not working for something that I wanted was an outcome of not getting first place. And I didn't really take it as seriously, kind of what Ella was talking about. And so coming into junior year, I really had to apply myself, and then I placed first at region again, came to state, and I actually ran for an officer position of the state. So I am the Southern Region Vice President of the state. And so that was also something that I had to overcome, was was the idea of having to campaign, and it is a really big leadership position. And so I just really had to think about, like, is DECA and being good at DECA something that I really want? Is this position something that I want? And if I don't want it, I don't want to take it away from someone who actually wants to do it. So I really had to make the decision, and that was also kind of hard for me, just like focusing, because like I mentioned, like I do a bunch of different things. And so I needed to focus and work for DECA and decide, like, okay, am I going to go in during lunch and take practice exams? Am I going to do business scenarios with our principal? That's who we practiced with. And I think I practiced with him about 3 times. And we practiced with a bunch of different teachers from our school. Everyone was helping out. And it's really just the effort that I had to put in, I think, was the hardest part for me. Just like focusing and like deciding that this is something that I want to do. And it all paid off because we're going to nationals, and I'm just super excited.
And then you guys have more students that made nationals. How does that work?
Yeah. So essentially what it is we had 13 of our members go to state, and anyone can go to state if they want. They just have to be approved by more. And it's just like, if you put in effort, then she'll send you to state. And then we had 10 of us make it to our, like, the finalist round. So you do a first business scenario. Then if you do good, then you go on to the second round, and that's when you can qualify for nationals. The 5 of us qualified for nationals. And then from our region, we had a few other schools. They had a few other members who qualified as well.
And they're like 1 or 2 kids per school, and then you guys are 5?
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, maybe that reflects your president and your advisor a lot too, right?
Yeah.
I'm just sucking up to Mrs. Moore, so she'll let me come and speak more classes. She's in the room with us. No one can see her on camera, but no, that's great. I mean, you guys are all impressive. Like, I think about when I was in high school, man, I was just there for the social aspect of it, right? Like, I love how you kind of took that. School was like, really, school's easy for me, and this was something that was hard. And it was very mature, I think, to take the approach of, like, if I don't want this, I don't want to take it away from someone else. Like, I love that you said that. Like, you were conscious of that, right?
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, I mean, does speaking, like, presenting to judges, does that make anyone nervous? Like, you guys all seem like you're pretty well spoken. Go ahead.
So I definitely say that, like, in the beginning, speaking to judges was nearly terrifying. When I first found out about DECA, it was my freshman year of high school. I was living in Salt Lake County. I was attending Corner Canyon High School at the time, and I had gone to a DECA Club because I was just interested in what I had to offer. In retrospect, I realized now more, I really just wanted to build my college resume, and that's what interested me the most. But I attended a meeting, and the very instant I sit down, the previous members of the club are passing out these things called role plays, and we're talking about these tests, and we're going to speak to a judge. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I have no idea what's going on. And it wasn't until, and I didn't end up joining the club. But then a year later, I moved to St. George, and I attended Desert Hills High School, actually. And I spoke to the business teacher, like, hey, I think I'd like to give DECA a try. I was more interested. And so she's like, all right, perfect. So I signed up, and we had all of our competitions that year were online. All of 2020 through 2021. Region was online, state was online, nationals was online. So there wasn't any communicating with judges quite yet. And then the following year, junior year, I was still at Desert Hills, and I went to state with the other kids in the chapter in the club. And that was the very first time, it was going to be the very first time I had ever spoken to a judge or presented. And the very instant I sit down at the prep table, and I have 10 minutes to prepare a presentation for the judge, I'm given my business scenario. I'm just like terrified. And then I go up to the judge and I sit down, and I felt terrific. It was the most euphoric feeling in the entire world. Here I am, 2 years into DECA, no idea what it's like to speak to a judge in real life. But the second I jumped in and I did it, not really thinking about, like, well, I don't know, maybe how should I treat them as, like, more of a person or more of a, how they are supposed to be in the business scenario. But as soon as I jumped in, all those questions kind of went away in my mind. And it was instantly just, it was basically just jumping right into it and thinking to myself, I'm just going to do it and see how it turns out. Right. And so I think that just taking that jump was so huge. And that's kind of the best way to think about presenting to judges or really anyone. In the moment, it will be terrifying, or even before, it will be terrifying. But once you start to really understand, like, this is just another obstacle that you need to get over or want to get over to reach your goal. And in that case, my goal was nationals. If there is a goal you have, there's just little obstacles that you've got to face. And speaking to a judge is just one of them. And that's exactly how it should be treated. And I think that DECA has kind of helped us all see it in that way, that the judge is basically just a vessel for us to get our goals. And how can we best prepare for that? And how can we best understand ourselves so that we can put forth our best effort?
Yeah. Yvonne, I saw you shaking your head too. Are you nervous to present, or how'd that go for you?
I would say, so since this is my first year, just barely, I was feeling pretty confident with my presentation, but as soon as we got there, I was kind of freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to do this. I actually have to present in front of someone. And I'm a pretty anxious person as it is. I get really in my head when I have to talk to someone, because I'm like, what if I mess up? But, once you get in there and you actually start talking to them and you're your stuff, that your stuff, it feels pretty easy. And I like how Ethan said it feels euphoric when you leave, because it's everything just is off your shoulder, and it's you just feel so great about yourself once you leave, and that you did your best and you challenged yourself. And I think that that's what DECA really is for me, is to challenge myself, to get myself out of my comfort zone so that I can actually, know that I can do hard things. The hard thing for me is speaking in front of people. So I think that's
awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else feel that? Jason's like, no, I was pretty good at it from the beginning.
Well, I would describe myself as more of a thinker and not a talker. Even today, or even just what I'm saying right now, sometimes it takes me 10, 15 minutes just thinking out each sentence, how I'm going to say it. But then sometimes it just doesn't come out right either. I'm like, come on, what the heck? But as I grew up, I was kind of the quiet kid through elementary school, I guess. I had to take speech classes because I struggled. I had a few speech impediments, and I'd say my R's like this and all those, all that fun stuff. So DECA for me I was scared out of my mind of the judges. And I think it might have been a little bit of almost because my first role play, I go in there and I introduce myself and I present my idea, no response. And I was like, what do I do now? Because I'm the kind of person who feeds off of other people, what they say and what they do. And that kind of drives me. So when when she offered me no response, it kind of gave me no gauge to see where I was or how I was doing. I was just totally at a loss. And that kind of taught me a big lesson that day, because it taught me in school, it's easy to kind of just go through the motions and just not recognize people around you. But then as soon as you hit the real world, it's up to you to start those conversations, and it's up to you to be outgoing and ask those questions and figure out how to get people to respond to you rather than wait for them to respond, kind of prompt them rather than be the one who's prompted. So I learned that through DECA, especially because no other really experience had ever forced me to basically force another person to respond to me, because usually it's the teacher at the front of the classroom lecturing me and not actually myself trying to carry on a conversation with someone else.
Yeah. Ella, I saw you reaching for the mic when I cut you off with Josh and with Dason over there.
You're good. I was just going to say that even now, even though I've been in DECA for 3 years, I still get nervous, but I almost love that. This last competition, I made it to the finals round, and it was okay, this is my one shot to make it to nationals. And I was on the phone with my dad, and I do Isaac's category, so that's business, service, marketing. And I was on the phone with him, and I was like, Dad, I'm not Isaac. I can't do this. Everybody Isaac is Isaac. We all just love Isaac. We praise Isaac. But I'm I'm not Isaac. I used to have a speech impediment. I stumble over my words and everything. And so that was really scary for me, because I was when Isaac sits down, he just portrays this natural confidence, and that's not necessarily the same energy you get from me. My dad was like, well, you have other talents, and he was and so really, to me, what DECA is anybody can talk for 10 minutes, but is what you're saying, is it worth something? DECA is meaningful talk to 10 minutes, and so that's really what my dad said to me. He's like, when you talk with meaning, make them want to listen to you, or give them a reason to listen to you. And so I would just agree with the others. Like, even now, I still get nervous, and I've practiced for like 5 hours leading up, and I still got nervous. But I think almost that's why I love DECA, because it's such a challenge you have to overcome doing each competition.
Yeah. And Liv's just a natural.
Yeah.
I'm so nervous right now. Talking comes easy to me. Before going into our business scenarios, I am nervous, but it's more like I know that I can do it, and I know that if I am nervous and I let like the feelings like overcome me and stuff, then I'm gonna do worse than how I would, rather than if I was just like being confident. And so, like, even, like, sitting here, we were talking about it earlier, how, like we just got to be ourselves, and, like, and then everything will work out. And so, like, I don't know, I just feel like being nervous, like, yes, it's a feeling, and I just think that if we more try to overcome it, then we can do better without the nervous feelings.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of studies done on the human brain, and I didn't know, I wish I'd have known this when I was, like, even younger than you guys, but what they've realized is when you're nervous and when you're excited, it's basically the same chemical release. Like it's they can't discern between the two. It's just how you interpret it, right? And so I grew up super conservative, don't get hurt, don't do anything crazy, like not like negative, but I grew up being cautious of everything, right? And then again, I'll bring my wife into this. Like, she grew up like rock climbing and rappelling, and she's done all of it. Mountain bike, skydiving. She's done all of it, right? Like, she grew up being pushed on those limits. And so she has a different outlook of things. I'm nervous. She's excited, but it's the same thing, right? And so another thing, I wrote this down. So don't let me, when I'm writing things down, don't let it distract you. Like I was telling you, like I just need something to remind me when you guys are done with your thought. But what I realized was you're supposed to be nervous for things. Like you talked about, I think, Ivana talked about comfort zone. I think you mentioned that. There's zero progression in a comfort zone, right? Zero. And there's people that are fine being in that comfort zone and they never want to progress. Like, more power to them. I don't think that's not me, and I don't think it's any of you guys, right? And so getting in that comfort zone, seeing your goals, like you were talking goals, and being able to get out of that and push yourself and be uncomfortable. And then, if you guys heard of a runner's high, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what you guys were experiencing, right? It's kind of the same chemical release. Like, you were nervous getting into it, you finally got into it, and then you just had this feeling of like, I can do this, right?
Oh, I still feel like I'm in a runner's high. This was very nervous. And then, but now, we're very excited about it. And there's actually a quote from a friend of mine that I actually like that really ties into that. And it's that she's a cross country runner. And she says that there's no growing in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growing zone. Either way you think about it, there's progression, you know what I mean? Or if there's either you're either stagnant or you're not progressing. You know what I mean? When you are trying to find comfort in the growing zone, you're not even in the growing zone anymore. You're not even thinking about, what it really takes to reach your goals. When we all kind of decided that we wanted to push for nationals after we found out that we were finalists for the second round at state, oh man, you bet we were pushing for it. We didn't just, stop thinking or stop studying about what we were going to do for our next presentation leading up to qualifications for nationals. We pushed, and we pushed hard. We knew that by finding discomfort and seeking progression, that we were going to reach our goals. And I don't think that you can do that without first understanding. You might not like it. You know what I mean? It's going to take a lot of hard work, but it will come as long as you put in the right effort and it's targeted at the right goals, I should say.
Yeah. your key word of that whole thing is decided. Like, I decided I was going to do this. I saw the goal. I decided I wanted to be a regionals. I decided this, right? And that's what holds people back, is that fear, and they just can't get over that. And I was that person for a long time, so like I can speak about that. One thing, I've got this quote. Have you guys ever heard of Les Brown? Anyone? So Tony Robbins. You guys know Tony Robbins? So he was kind of Tony Robbins before Tony Robbins. Okay. So he's a little older than Tony Robbins, but a lot of those guys at that level, they watched him. Like, that's where they got inspiration from. Okay. I love this quote. It stuck with me for 6 months because I struggled being that guy to get out of my comfort zone. That's the podcast, right? Like, that's what this was I had to get out of my comfort zone to do this. Speaking in high schools, I don't know why, terrified. I'm like, it's just like 16-year-old kids, right? Like, it shouldn't terrify me. I'm 34. So, well, I'm 30. How old am I? I'm 34 on Thursday. So my birthday's in a couple days. So, I'll be 34 when this airs. So I was accurate. And so I've thought about this. I heard this quote and it stuck with me, and I repeat it to people all the time. I get pitched businesses all the time. I get people that talk to me about struggles all the time. Like, being on the podcast is just inevitable. But even just friends that know, I mean, I run 5 businesses every day. And so like, I'm in and out of conversations with people all the time, right? So let me read this to you. It's kind of long. I'm not a great reader. One of my huge fears is public reading. So bear with me here, right? So it says, the graveyard is the richest place on earth, because it is here where you will find all the hopes and dreams that were never fulfilled, the books that were never written, the songs that were never sang, the inventions that were never shared, the cures that were never discovered, all because someone was too afraid to take the first step, take with that the problem, or determined to carry out their dreams. And so like, anytime someone talks about starting a business and then they end up getting scared and not doing it, or any of that, write a book, sing a song, whatever, right? When that gets brought up to me, I say, you know what the richest place in the world is? The graveyard. And then I tell them, like, go look up the quote. And it's given me the confidence to step out and try and go do something, because you never know, right? What is it, Jordan that talked to, is it Jordan Mallory? We've actually quoted this and we got corrected in our comments. Someone talked about you miss 100% of shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky.
Gretzky. I think they quoted Jordan and it was Gretzky.
Yeah, it was Gretzky.
So like, it's the same thing, right? So if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you don't go do things, you don't choose to be that person, you don't choose to go do this stuff, it's never going to happen for you. But guys, like, that's, I don't know, 7. I mean, I'm making this number up, but that's the majority of people. That's 70% of people. You had 50 people show up to the club, and how many people followed through? 13. So, and I'm, again, not trashing those other people, but like, that's what you guys made the decision to do it, right? Ivana, was there anything kind of being brand new to this that you just had to accelerate? Like, you had a talent that you had to accelerate to be on the same level to go to nationals with these guys, or did you just kind of fit right in like a puzzle piece?
I would say both. I feel like we all get along really well, or they get along with me, I would hope.
It's like, hold on, we'll let them talk about that too.
I would say just like coming into this new, it's definitely weird because it's in the comfort zone thing. And since I'm so late to it, because there was like the whole fall conference thing that I didn't do, because I was so late to realize that I wanted to try something new. So same with like that whole, I don't know, the making sure you actually want to do what you want to do. I knew that before I didn't really think about wanting to do it, but now I do want to do it. And having the same attitude as these guys, making sure that, and they've all helped me so much to, I don't know, make sure that I'm doing the right things, because I'm still kind of confused by some things, but I'm just here and I'm doing it and I'm trying my hardest. And obviously that got me somewhere.
Something comes to mind when I came and spoke in Mrs. Moore's class, and someone said something to the effect of like, is it cutthroat in business, right? Like, are you just out to put everyone out of business, and are they trying to come at you and you're just cutting corners on everyone? And I was like, I think in the beginning it was that way. And then once you get down the road, it's all about network. Like I have gun safes, vault doors, right? That's my kind of my day job. And so we just focus on that. Typically it's like Sportsman's Warehouse also has safes. It's Rowdy's Range also has safes, right? It's kind of like a supplement business. It's not a main business. So taking that risk we just do safes, right? But what I had to do, or I didn't even have to do it, it was already built in because of my holsters, but I had relationships with all of the other places in town. So I knew all the owners. I hung out with all the owners. I've sat in the back offices with all of them and cracked jokes right? And so having that relationship, all those guys, has made me a way stronger business owner. And so I'm kind of tying that to you, where like you kind of came in late. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but like down the road a little bit, right? But you've already had that connection with everyone. And because of that, it lifted you up. And I would imagine it lifted everyone else up in this same thing. So that's what's interesting about, we've talked networks in the beginning, is like help each other, like stand on shoulders, help each other out, seek information. Like and especially now, I mean, there's information about everything 1,000 times, right? But get out there. Like one big thing that helped me, like Liv had said, she'd never listened to a podcast before. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that helped, and I'm not saying to do this, but this is what helped me. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I was not a great student. I wasn't super smart. I didn't do any clubs. Like I kind of made the joke when I talked in the class, like I played football and then I blew my knee up in like 9th grade, and then I started chasing girls. And so I never had time for anything else. And so I never really did any clubs or any other sports. But I just think of those networks that I built when I wasn't, like I was friends with everyone. And so like there wasn't, the football kids, the chess club, like there wasn't all these little cliques. And I think that was the majority of my class felt that way anyway. I think we were just a unique class at the time because it was very cliquey in high school. I don't know if it still is. Like everyone was kind of friends with everyone. And to this day, like that's what's helped the podcast, is I've brought people on that were wrestlers and people that were in the financial district and people that were, we had a dentist on. I mean, we've had people from every walk of life, and I've known them since high school. Right. So yeah, anyway, I'm kind of rambling now, but just make sure you guys keep that open and keep relationships open. Cause, another thing I want to say is I've always emphasized, you always hear it's not, it's who you know. Like everyone says, well, it's who you know, right? And I want to take another step to that, because I don't think it's who you know. I think it's who knows you, right? So like Ethan could be like, I know Derick, I watched all of his podcasts, but like, I don't know Ethan, right? So like he could be like, I do now, right? But a lot of people put that out there. It's like, well, it's all who you know. It's not. It's who knows you and who you have that connection with.
This is actually kind of a weird segue that you mentioned that, because I definitely recognize that DECA has, I mean, we talk about DECA a lot, right?
Sure, well, we're supposed to.
Right.
That's why we're here.
Right. But we've definitely noticed how DECA has helped with networking. So last year, those of us who went to nationals, we were meeting kids from all over the country. These are kids that are, I mean, not only from all over the country, but these are the kids that placed top 3 or better in their respective categories for their competitions. You know what I mean? So these are kids from all over the country that are extremely skilled with their category. These are very disciplined kids and hardworking. And so it was so interesting to be able to meet kids from all over. And they do this funny thing at nationals where every kid from each state gets a very unique pin. And then one night during the trip, every kid from every state comes together and we all trade pins and we all get to talking to each other. And it's a really unique opportunity for us to be able to network. So I was meeting kids from Vermont. I was meeting kids from Pennsylvania. I was meeting kids from Nevada, which isn't even that close, or not even that far, but it was still cool just to be able to see and talk to them and to be able to hear a little bit of their story. Like, hey, what category do you compete in? What brought you here to nationals, to Atlanta, Georgia? And so it was really cool to be able to see those. I still have relationships with some kids that I've met from even our state competition. We live here in St. George, right? But I have connections of kids up in Vernal, which is a 6-hour drive. It's basically the opposite side of Utah. You know what I mean? And so it's really a unique experience to be able to network. And I know that at nationals this year too, we're going to have just as much of an experience to be able to network and build those relationships with other people and to just, have another person that we can get to know and understand a little bit better, and maybe even down the line have a business relationship with too. I think that'd be super important as long as we, have opportunities like this to go to nationals.
Yeah, when I was your guys' age, so I have 3 older brothers. I don't know if you guys have older siblings or not, but and Dason might kind of relate this to his dad a little bit, but my older brothers, it seemed like all of their friends and my older brothers were starting to get into business, and they had all these connections and I had a brother that was very successful in football and basketball in high school. And so everyone already knew him. Right. And I always like looked up and was like, man, like, I don't think I have any friends like that, when I was your age. Right. And I mean, you're not supposed to, you're 17. Right. And so, but I always remember that, like, well, one day I'm going to have these connections. One day I'm going to have these connections. And I'm a relationship guy anyway, but it kind of drove me to that. And now I look back or I look out now, and we've done this podcast, and the majority of the people on the podcast have been my friends. Right. And I mean, this is 87. We've had a few duplicates, so call it 65 people. Right. And I look at it now, and I think I have that relationship now. And that's the basis that you guys are building now. Like, especially in a business related competition, right? Like, you guys are already, it's already built in for you. And so when you do these nationals, that would be my challenge. And maybe you guys are already doing it. I wouldn't have, because I'd have been in my little shell, but like, reach out, get in touch with these guys. Don't be nervous to introduce yourself. Don't be nervous to take a pad. I don't know what you guys do now. You probably like exchange Snapchats or something. I don't know, but whatever you guys do because I'm still on Facebook and Instagram. So I don't know what you guys do now, but make those connections, because they'll pay off in the future for sure. That was one thing for me. Now I look out and I'm like, I could pretty much make a phone call at most trades and get something taken care of, just from the basis that I started in high school. Right. And I don't know, like, I'm sure DECA was around when I was in high school. Yeah. So, I'd never even heard of it. And so, like, when I reached out to Renee Martineau and then to Mrs. Moore, they told me, I think she emailed me, and I had DECA advisor or something on her email. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck is that? Like, I didn't even know what it was. Right. So this has been a cool thing for me too. It's kind of opened up my eyes, and it's funny to think that little goal of trying to get out of my comfort zone got me into speaking in schools. And then I just booked Pineview. I'm going to speak 2 consecutive days at Pineview, which is my old stomping grounds. That's where I graduated. And then into this, right? Like, we've never even done this before. Like, we've never packed up the studio and taken it somewhere else. So, and when I say we, Mallory and Blake did that. I didn't have any part in it, but I bought the tablecloths. That's all I did. But I got off track with Liv. I wanted to finish my thought with this. So I had said, like, you don't have to do this, but this is what I did that helped me out a lot. And all of you guys, I quit listening to a lot of music, and I took like that entertainment of football, of basketball, of music, of whatever that is. I'm not saying you have to do it. This is just what helped me. Anytime I had the urge I got Spotify. So anytime I had the urge to like listen to music, I would turn on a podcast. And I always tried to focus it on something. And I got into podcasts when I was driving and making holsters, because I'd sit all night at my house and work for like 6 or 7 straight hours in my basement doing holsters. And I'd just turn on. That's when I loved Joe Rogan, because he's like 3 hours, right? And so like he could just go the whole time. I'm not splitting it up every 20 minutes. But there's so much information out there. And so when I stopped listening to music and started focusing on subjects I needed to learn about, that changed my life. And that's where I mentioned Andy Frisella. Like, Andy Frisella was that. I quoted Eric Thomas, the hip hop. Were you any of you guys in the class that I spoke in? I don't think so. Okay. So Eric Thomas is a huge one that really changed a lot of what I was doing. He's funny, man. He's called the hip hop preacher. So he's got a hat, Nikes, like just shows up and he's speaking to $1 billion corporations, and he does a lot of, any of you guys know him? Eric Thomas? No? So when I started listening to him, it really changed my whole thinking about everything. And then I still viewed Rogan as like a entertainment basis. Like, I didn't watch him to learn things. It was just entertaining, right? And then Ed Milet, Andy Frisella are the top two for me. I would say, and even now, so I'm getting into some real estate. We bought some real estate a few months ago for a short-term rental. We built our home a couple of years ago. We have a rental in our home. And so now everything I listen to is strictly real estate stuff, financing it, setting it up, laws, all of it, right? And it's crazy how, you guys are smarter than me, so this might already be happening to you, but it's crazy how like the conversations I start to get in are like based, like I realize that and it makes sense to me. And so you can start having those conversations with people. And again, that's like you're building that network with everyone, right? So now like I was talking to your teacher in I call her Renee, Mrs. Martineau. And before this, and I started saying like, yeah, I'm getting real estate stuff that comes across my desk, weekly, every other week. And I never had that before. Like never in my life have anyone send me something and say, hey, this is it. You should check this out. You should check this listing out. And now it's every other week, but it's because I applied myself into that, right? And I took the time out of, I don't want to call it like being entertained, because it's fine to be entertained every now and then, but I took out of that entertainment side of it and put it into learning.
We're more connected as a society now than ever in the history of basically mankind, which I think is unbelievable. But I feel like at times we use that connection, like you were saying, like sometimes just for entertainment. But then I realized as we focus on the learning aspect, you can learn so much in even just 5 minutes just from your phone, or even like Ethan was saying at nationals, like just talking to people and reaching out. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy. Like 20 years ago, you had to go look them up in the phone book to ask them a question or something. But now you just like, there's a million other things you can do to try to reach someone. And with that amount of information, it can seem almost like too easy to take it for granted and just like take it while it's there. But I guess we should talk about fundraising now. So we both, well, actually the three of us took second place, but since Liv is a state officer, so her trip will be paid for. However, it was a bit different this year.
Along with raising the money to get there and plus the hotel and everything, we also have to keep in mind that we have to pay for like food and stuff. So there's like a certain set amount of money that the school pays for them, but like they also have to, first place winners also have to pay for like their food and stuff. So the fundraising is for us obviously to be able to get to Florida for the nationals, plus other things as well.
I mean, so there's more expenses than just a plane ticket. Yeah. And you guys are even lumped into that more expenses, right? and so, I mean, so that, I almost forgot all that. That's funny. I thought we've had such a good talk. I was like, let's end this thing, right? But that was kind of the goal of this too, is like, obviously give us content for the podcast, get to know you guys a little better. But the goal of all of this, to put all this together, to drag Mallory out of her studio to do all this, is we're trying to raise money for you guys. So a lot of those expenses, if not all of them, are covered. And with all of our contacts through the podcast and my personal contacts, Mallory's personal contacts, all of that, we're going to have like an email blast that goes out to everyone. And I think we have a Venmo okay. So we've got different ways to collect money to be able to donate to you guys. So one of our big things today that we're trying to accomplish, our goal is that you guys have this nationals competition down in Orlando, Florida. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of come in and help you guys fundraise a little bit and really attach my network to you guys and raise some money up to cover those expenses. So, two of you guys, there's plane tickets that need to be covered. And then there's also rent a car, food, and just all the miscellaneous things. So, we're jumping into this, trying to help you guys out. I'm pretty confident that we're going to get most of your guys' stuff covered. But maybe we can even do all of you, just like jump in a little deeper into what your category is. Maybe even, I don't even know how this works, but what you present, how you present, and just kind of rattle off some stuff. And we'll just start at Dason and work this way.
Well, my category is, I don't know if I said earlier, but quick serve restaurant management. And my scenario was actually interesting, that the scenario that I had to qualify for nationals and take second, it was about it was saying you're the director of, like you're the president of products at a global burger chain with, and I was like, this is just a moonshot number, but it was 60,000 locations. I was like, there's no way. But I went along with it, and it was saying it's been open since the 1960s. It has, its original burger, fries, and drink, and it never felt the need to expand its product line until like the 1980s, 2000s, when people started finding interest in like salads, chicken, other food categories. And now it's saying surveys show a growing interest in the snack industry because most people go to fast food usually for a quick bite to eat rather than a full meal. So it's saying, as a chain, we want to release a snack menu. How are we going to market that? How are we going to promote that? And even what items are we going to, like, what snacks are we going to sell that would make our brand unique as, what was it called? It was called like Burger Town. They always name their businesses as super simple, like Town and Country Inn, or just funny things like that. But it was like brand the snacks, price the snacks. People don't want to pay more than $3, let's say, for a snack item. And then that was really what I had to present about for my category to the judge.
So have you done that? Have you done that yet?
Yeah, so
what
that
was a snack, man? You can't build all that up and then don't tell me.
I built up all the. So there were 4 snack items I had. It was hush puppies, stuffed jalapenos, egg rolls.
So you had 3 snacks.
3 snacks. There was a 4th one, but I cannot remember the name. But I came up, I was like, we'll call them snazzy snacks, just to play on words. And I was saying, let's market it in a way where it's going to appeal to people rather than saying, hey, we're selling hush puppies now, to say, hey, we're selling snazzy snacks. Even though it's not something super unique, that like it's not a completely new food item that we created just for our snack menu, but we're promoting it and marketing it in a way that makes it seem unique, which gives us kind of the edge over our competitors that already have snacks.
Sure.
So if that makes sense.
That's creative. Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking like, man, I don't know what I would do. So that's creative. All right, Ivana.
Okay, so for my category that I'm taking with me to nationals is financial consulting. So basically my scenario was I'm a financial consultant and I'm consulting the CEO of a bank who wants to transfer to like an online platform as well. So they want to also keep some of their like in-person banks. So I was just trying to help them like move to an online platform and how to like advertise to their like already customers so that they know that they're transferring to an online bank as well, and just giving them some products to put online, like a debit card that can be put online. So like I had the idea of having like a digital wallet, but like how Apple already has like those digital wallets you can scan with your phone. I did it like it could be for all phones, so like Androids could do that too. I did like depositing into your safety account. It would like round up all of your all of the money that you spent. So say you bought something for like $24.33, that extra 66 cents that would round up to $25 would go into like your savings account. So each purchase that you spend, you technically are putting something into your savings account. So that was one of my ideas that they could have when they move to an online bank. And just little things like that to help them like feel better about moving online. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, it's like here's a new generation that understands it, so we're going to cater this to them. But if you want to have the in-person stuff, you can still go do that. And then the in-between is like, we're introducing this to you. I like that. Yeah. Then Liv. Sorry, I should have done that different to where we didn't have to move mics around. Go ahead.
Okay, so mine is marketing communications, and I've competed in a few different categories, but this is the one that I found that was like it's really good. I love it. And basically what you're doing, they're all essentially the same scenario, which is one of the things that I love about DECA is like if you find a category that you understand and that you're good at, then you can continue to move forward with that. But if you don't, then there's so many different categories and you can like try around and switch different ones. So I've also done like apparel and accessories and just like the basic principles of marketing. And that's what I'm interested is I want to go into like marketing, stuff like that. And so some of the business scenarios that I've had all kind of fall in like the same like organization and sequence. So it's I'm given a company and I have to come up with like a ad campaign or a promo to either promote a new product or like re-promote our business or just help with like brand identification in the market. And it usually just ends up being the same thing, like different businesses, different like categories, but it's just all the same. And it's really nice because like my favorite thing is social media marketing and like advertisement. I think that like I think it's the best way for advertisement, specifically for like the businesses that I would like to open and create, just because it's like you can touch base with so many people. And so that's something that I always use when I'm doing DECA. So one of the business scenario that got me to nationals was that the first one was that it was a banking company. I don't know. It was really weird. And it was that we had to help solve a problem of how everyone is just keeping like jars of coins in their houses. No one really uses coins anymore. Kind of like Ivana's scenario mentioned that like we need to use like online baking and stuff. And so they need to get coin circulation back because we can't just like make more coins. That's how hyperinflation happens. And so we just need to like come up with an idea to make it so there's more coins. So my idea was essentially to have like bring back coin purses. And so like it starts a trend, and then obviously you'll take the coins that are just in a jar in your house and put them in your coin purses, and then you'll actually use them. That's really helpful too, because then we're tipping our employees and we're making sure that like everything is still in circulation. And then something that I also really like about DECA is because there isn't one right answer. I'm sure that so many people came up with different ideas, and like the idea of a coin purse isn't really anything special. Like I actually think it's really funny, and I probably would have changed my idea now, but like 10 minutes and being nervous and stuff. But there are so many different like ideas that you can come up with, and there isn't a right one and there isn't a wrong one, but there is a best one, and you just have to be the most creative and present it the best.
So if you have one at state, do you have to carry that with you to nationals, or do they give you a new scenario?
So they give you a new scenario every single time you do one. We did 2 rounds to get to state. We were like the first round to become a finalist, and then like to win. And so we each had 2 different ones, and then you just stay in your category. So I'll go to nationals, compete in marketing communications, but I'll get like a different scenario.
Got ya. Okay. Ethan, what you got?
So the category that I am going to compete in Orlando is hotel and lodging management. So this is the category that I've stuck with for, I think this is my second year now. Yeah, this is my second year. And it has to do a lot with either marketing or customer service. Those are kind of the 2 areas that I'd say when I compete, the business scenarios that I'm given, that's mostly what it's on. So the scenario that I had most recently in the finalist round at state to qualify for nationals, related to, in fact, it was actually a problem that some of the employees of my hotel had. So I was a hotel manager, and my goal was basically to help employees receive tips that guests and clients in the hotel wanted to offer to employees, but they just didn't want to use cash. They didn't have cash on hand that often, and employees saw a decline in tips because of it. And so I had to come up with a creative solution to make sure that guests and clients know that there is an alternative method of tipping without necessarily using cash. That way, the employees are happy because suddenly they're getting more tips again, and the guests and clients are informed. And so the solution that I came up with was to use an already existing app that our hotel had. And mind you, when I read the business scenario, it said nothing about an already existing app. But because of the creativity that we can use, we can make up just about anything we want. But it's how we present those creative ideas that the judges base us on, or how they score us, excuse me. But I decided to use an app for tipping. So as Ivana mentioned, like we have touchless payment, and that is used all over the world, and it is so incredibly useful, especially after COVID. And so I thought, well, if I can use an app, then clients and guests alike can not only choose who they're tipping, but how much. If there's a specific crew, for example, if they wanted to tip all of the restaurant crew, or maybe they just wanted to tip the restaurant cook crew, I would presented to my judge that that would be an option for them. They would be able to tip who they wanted and how much, and through our app, they would be able to do so. And so once I presented this to my judge, I started to realize a little bit more like, there's tons of different solutions out there. As, Liv mentioned, there's tons of different ideas that you can have. And looking back, it's like, I realized there are tons of different scenarios or solutions that I could have come up with for my scenario. But at the same time, it's like the competition really boils down to who can present the ideas the best. Not necessarily who has the best idea, because you're so limited on time. You know what I mean? But who can present them the best. And in hotel lodging management, that is a huge part of that comes down to how are you going to best tailor your customers' needs? Like how are you best going to tailor your business or your hotel to your customer needs? Or how are you best going to market your brand?
Awesome. All right, next we got Ella.
Okay. So the two categories that I did was personal selling and business service marketing. And so I chose business service marketing to go to nationals with. And that is basically just essentially the name. You're just marketing services that businesses have to offer. And so my role play that I was given for my finalist one, it actually really made me laugh, because before, when I was preparing to come to state and to compete, I did a practice role play with my principal. And when I was in the bathroom at state, I was like thinking over past role plays I did, and I was thinking back to the one I did with my principal. I was like, that one went good, but I would have changed like the tagline to show your employees that you love them. And so then I get into my finalist role play, and I'm like looking at the role play that I do, and it's essentially the exact same tagline. So mine was, you're a luxury vehicle company, and you want to convince more corporate companies to use your services, and you want them to use your services and to use group rideshare less. So basically, it's how you're going to market that to corporate clients. And so what I decided to do is, well, let me backtrack. Basically, with the DECA role plays, they always kind of have a puzzle piece you have to figure out. Like, yes, you can just market a tagline, but if you really want to win and qualify for nationals, you have to understand the puzzle piece. And for that one, it was, what are you going to give the corporate clients in exchange? Because going with rideshare is cheaper, of course, but by using a luxury vehicle company, you show your employees you love them. Because, wouldn't you feel loved if you just got out of the airport and you see this big, black, shiny SUV with a driver in a black suit and tinted windows? That would make you feel seen and heard by your boss, by your corporation you're working for. So that was really my plan, was the whole marketing plan and the strategy that I was going to use would revolve around corporate clients can show their employees that they love them by using a luxury vehicle services, thereby increasing employee retention. So that was my category.
That's impressive. You guys have like 10 minutes to come up with all this? That's impressive. I mean, I don't think I could do that. So yeah, I mean, everything you guys have said has blown me away today. I've enjoyed being here. I hope you guys have had fun too. You guys need to go kick some butt in the world, and then we bring you back on the podcast in 5 years and say, hey, remember when we had you guys on at the high school, right? But anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming today. I know, you guys are busy for sure. I think Liv does more than most people with all of her leadership positions, but yeah, thanks for coming today. I had a good time. I hope you guys did too. Any final words? Anything else you guys want to throw out? I don't want to short anyone on time.
I think we'd all just like to say thank you for this amazing opportunity to be able to kind of voice what we're doing and the importance that DECA is to our lives and how it's developing us.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I can be here and do it. Maybe I don't want this recorded, but I'm thinking, how do I get more involved in this? This is a pretty cool program that you guys are able to do. So I don't know if I could just roll to Florida like that. Anyway, guys, that's episode 87. That's the Crimson Cliffs DECA Club. These are the 5 finalists that are going to Orlando, Florida, and jump in, try and help us out. Let's raise some money for these guys so they know people care about them. And then you can build a relationship with them too. They've got a lot of talents, as you can tell. And I think that you could benefit by implementing some of these guys into your businesses. I mean, they got a little bit of college and stuff to go through, it sounds like, but I mean, I'd probably hire any of them right now. So appreciate you guys being here. If you're still with us, please like, share, comment, and share this around. Let's get this circulating. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys next week.